So this is the part of the video where we're going to try not to name drop. All right. Everybody's going to give an example that they've
That's
had in the past of themselves being in a toxic relationship.
I've never been in one.
Technically, I was in it and I got out of it.
I mean, you can look at it as like toxic, I guess.
I feel like my case is a bit unusual.
Hi, welcome back to the high school perspective. Dude, I know I say every time that it's like it's been a long time. You know, it's been like months since we've done one. It has been months. I don't know if it's been longer than last time, but there's been a common theme about taking breaks every now and then. But like usual, we're back on a not so scheduled schedule. The original people are here just because like I don't want to hit anybody up and be like, hey, do a video with me. When it's just like we haven't done one for such a long time. So with that being said, Andrew's here, Paul is here, Miggy's here, and I am here. What's up, guys? How are you all doing?
Fantastic.
Great.
Thanks for having me on here.
Today's topic, like you all know, today's topic is toxic relationships. Wow. I think everybody goes through them at some point in life, and today we're going to be going over some of the general questions and giving you guys some advice based on our experiences in toxic relationships or maybe our friends' experiences. Just for the sake of the video, we're not going to be name dropping. It's a very safe space, and we're not going to try to expose anybody just in case those people do happen to watch, because things can fly around pretty quickly. Andrew's in SoCal, so he'll be fine. But Miggy, Paul, and I might get beat up. So yeah, let's just go ahead and get started. So the first question of the evening is, what are some things that could lead to a toxic relationship?
I feel like a toxic relationship starts when one person is trying to get something out of the other person instead of trying to help them get happy from themselves being happy first. Like, you can't go into a relationship not being happy with yourself, because then you won't be able to make someone else happy. Because if you try to get happiness from someone else, that's where like the toxicity starts, and that's like the one thing that you'll be looking for from them. Yeah, that's my take.
I'd say if, the relationship is one-sided, if like one person is doing all the work and like the other is just kind of just sitting there and, letting it happen and not, I guess, reciprocating back that same energy, then it can lead to some toxicity. Also, like, communication is key. And if you don't let your partner know, like, what's up, then they're never going to know. They're just going to keep guessing. And those guesses could be wrong, which could lead to problems. And it's just all bad. So I'd say, like that.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say miscommunication too. I think what Mickey said, like, miscommunication leads to, like, assumptions, which leads to, problems. And sometimes, like, most times, those assumptions are not, like, correct. And so, you have, like, news flying everywhere, and then you have problems.
You guys think you're good at, like, communicating your feelings in the relationship? Like,
I try to be. I feel like, I don't know. I think it often starts with one person. And the reason I say that is because, like, I'll get to my answer on the actual question, but like, for any relationship to work, I think trust is key. I've been a victim of kind of like maybe not being able to trust someone right away, with like a secret or something that I just wanted to express just because I wasn't comfortable yet, because I've had trust issues in the past. And that's not their fault. It's not really my fault either. It's just like I've gone through those things, and everybody does at some point. But I think, yeah, for any relationship to work out, there has to be the communication. And if there isn't, that can eventually lead to what would be thought of as a toxic relationship.
No, yeah. So based off like past relationships, like my recent like relationship, like I don't think I was like very good like with communication. I mean, I was, but like when you're talking about like texting and like stuff, it's just like the little things that mattered most are some things that I like kind of pushed away, and I feel like that kind of led on to like like why things ended. And also when you talk about like trust, I feel like some people in relationships want trust like right away, but some people are not like, great with letting people in like immediately, and that also creates problems in relationships. So yeah.
Man, for me, when it comes to like my feelings, I'm an open book. Like you can know so much about me like first meeting me, and like I tend to like fall quickly. I wouldn't say like fall, but I'd say like I tend to like put my feelings out there like right away. Like I know what I want and I know thing, which could be a problem sometimes because like you got to take things slow. But like sometimes you just can't lie about it. If you like hold it in, then that might be a thing. But yeah, for me, I'd say I'm pretty much like an open book, and like it's very easy for me to like I guess catch feelings, something like that.
I think like I'm on I'm kind of on Miggy's wavelength to like an extent. Like I feel like I get super expressive when the trust is built because like once I know that like I can be myself around them, like there's nothing stopping like me from letting me be myself. Like it's just able to happen. Like I don't see a reason not to. And if I don't, then that's kind of where the toxicity starts. That's where like you start deceiving them, start trying to hide stuff from them. You that's what we want.
So with that being said, what do you guys think are your worst traits in a relationship?
I'm too clingy. I'm way too clingy, especially if I really like the girl. I'm like I
Well, it
just
doesn't
want
have to be.
everything.
It doesn't have to be that kind of like with friends too.
Oh, with friends?
Any type of relationship.
Oh, okay. All right, yeah. In terms of I guess being in a relationship with someone, I'm very clingy. Like I really just want my whole everything to revolve around them pretty much all the time, 24/7. And some people might like that. Like most of the time people want their space, and I understand that. And I do give them space. It's just sometimes if I really like you, then yeah, I kind of just want to do everything with you. In terms of friends, I would say my toxic trait is um I sometimes like I say stuff without thinking, and sometimes I hit like a point. And I try working on this on myself, but it hasn't really been an issue. But sometimes like I tend to like hold some stuff in with me, and then like if like one of my friends does something that I don't agree with, I kind of just explode. And like I hate when I do that because like I just feel bad afterwards, and they didn't deserve that. But like it's been the thing I've been dealing with since I was like a kid, but I'm doing a lot better. Like when I feel something, I just say it. I'm not gonna hold it back or hold it in, and then just wait for it to explode. So I'd say that's one of my quote unquote toxic things when it comes to like friendship relationships.
I feel like I try really hard to gain the approval of one certain relationship and it'll hurt another instead of like me just doing what makes me happy. I feel like in the past I've tried too hard to look for that happiness in other people. And that's kind of where my first answer was based on. Kind of where there's one like say this is just a certain scenario I came up with. Like say someone wants you to keep a secret, right? They tell you a secret, they tell you not to tell anyone, but an even closer friend of yours asks about that secret. Like, what do you? It'd be stuff like that, like to where you're kind of stuck between people, or like having to choose what to do. And I feel like in those types of situations, I'm not good at like trying to do what I think is the right thing. Like I'll think about what'll gain, like what the least amount of something I'll lose, or what I'll lose the least, or like can I afford to lose this friend or this friend, and that's just me overthinking, and that's me trying too hard to look for approval. But yeah, that's just in general, like even with friendships and in like relationships, that's something I've started to notice. Trying to stop it, but it's a work in progress.
In terms of like relationships and like, I think I would say it's like taking things too fast. I don't know if that's like a toxic trait, but I just think I just try to take things way too fast. Like if we're just like in this space right now, like I just want us to like move like really fast, and like build up and stuff. So I think that's kind of like a toxic trait, but I don't really think it is. Friend wise, I don't really know, to be honest. I would say probably like what Andrew said. Like you have a friend that like tells you something, like a really like secret, and you have like your really close friend group right here, and you guys are having conversations, and then like something pops up. You're like, oh, should I tell them or should I not tell them? You know, so you're kind of stuck in this like, what, like, should I? Yeah, that's all.
I know you guys didn't talk about it in your answers, but I have to include family. I feel like I'm honestly such a selfish person in my family, um, and it's not like bad in the moment because like you don't really think about it that much until afterwards. But there will be some times where it's just like I will like ask for this. This is such a stupid example too. I will literally ask for like a glass of water, like as if I don't know how to get water myself, and that's just like a very like vague and not that good of an example, but it's just like the little things like that like you look back on and it kind of pisses you off because you're like I can do better than that. Like I can get my own damn water, you know, and it kind of I don't think it expands that much over to the relationships that I have with my friends or other partners. It's more I think you talk about different things with your family than you do with your friends, so I would consider those two different categories. In terms of friends and my relationship with my friends, I would say I do tend to overthink a lot, and I'm pretty, I guess, honest too. I think like a combination of overthinking and being overly honest is um, not good, but sometimes it's like I don't like to lie, but sometimes I feel like if I'm not completely honest, then as opposed to lying and then they find out the truth later a different way. That's almost worse. So sometimes I deal with dilemmas based on what kind of direction I should go with maybe like a problem or some scenario that my friend might be going through. But yeah, I guess my toxic traits are probably just overthinking, being overly honest, being a little selfish, and I don't know. I want to be myself, but at the same time, I feel like doing that kind of hurts other people. Um, and that sort of leads into my next question. Um, Obviously, we talked about kind of like the different symptoms and I guess words that you would use to describe a toxic relationship. Um, do you think someone in the position of being the toxic person can change? And this can relate to, I guess, more so being in like a either a man dating a woman or a woman dating a woman or a man dating a man. Um, can someone that's acting toxic change or get that second chance in a relationship?
Absolutely. I think I think anyone has potential to change, like regardless of their past, regardless of the things they do. Like I know obviously people do bad things. Like that's something that everyone knows. You might be there's people who cheat on their partners. There's people who don't prioritize their partners. You know, a lot of other things of those caliber. But when a person's faced with those bad things that they've done, they can do a lot of things. They could ignore it and just like distract themselves with other things that might seem entertaining to them. They can feel bad about themselves for it and just tell themselves that they're a bad person. Or they could look at what they've done, realize that it's wrong, and change from it. Like, regardless of where you're at in life, or regardless of where, like, what standpoint you're looking at, what you did wrong, you could look at it and tell yourself, like, man, I'm going to change. And, like, it doesn't have to be something major, like, you're going to declare to everyone that you're going to change. Like, I feel like anyone is capable of something like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's my take.
Sorry. No,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
I mean, I agree with what Andrew said. Like, anyone can change, right? But it's about like, can you like reflect on yourself? Can you like focus on like, oh yeah, what did I do wrong in this, you know? And if you're able to like reflect on yourself and see all those like little tiny things that you kind of messed up on, then I mean, I think that would help you like you grow like into your next relationship. But if you can't like reflect on those things, then I don't really think you can change. But again, it starts with like self reflection and like taking like admitting I did this and like moving forward with that. So that's how I see it.
Yeah, basically, yeah. It's like everyone deserves a second chance, but like it's gonna be harder, than actually doing it the first time because you got something to prove now. You know, it's gonna be a lot harder. But if you're willing to put in that work or like willing to change, it all just basically what Andrew and Paul said. It all just comes down to the actual person willing to make that change. If they're willing to make that change, then they deserve a second chance, most definitely. Um, like if they're really like set on doing that, then I'd say, yeah, go for it. So
I think everyone's capable of it. It's just not a lot of people are willing to do it.
Yeah.
yeah,
That's how I put it.
It's capability, but also I think it's how they choose to use their second chance. I mean, I'm saying that like it's a spell or something, but the way I see it, if there are two people that like each other or that love each other, and one of them does something that really hurts the other person, it shouldn't be up to the toxic person whether or not they get the second chance, because obviously they would want it and that they would take it if they do feel bad. It should be up to the person that got hurt, and you can really damage someone, believe it or not, like, because in the moment it may not hurt, you may not see it, but it could hurt them much more than it would hurt you, if they say, I don't want you in my life anymore. So I would say everybody is capable of having a second chance and using it for the greater good, but in terms of people necessarily deserving it comes down to whether or not the person's willing to give them that. And when you get the validation that, okay, they're willing to let me back into my life, then I think that's when you use your chance and then prove that you did deserve it. But in the moment when something happens, you don't deserve it then until someone gives you validation. So that's the way I see it. I don't think immediately people should get second chances. That's just my opinion, though. So let's say, let's bring back the example of the whole ending, or I guess not ending a relationship, but being in a toxic relationship. When you have the two people, what is the best way for someone in a toxic relationship that's the victim to get out of one?
I feel like, I mean, first, the first thing you should be able to do is like share your feelings. I feel like a lot of people that are in toxic relationships aren't able to like express their feelings like towards like close ones or like anyone around them, and they're just like stuck in this bubble of like what if I leave, like what will happen, like like do I want to leave. So I mean, if you can't really express your feelings at that point, then like I don't think you're able to like let go of that. So until you can let go of, like, until you can share your feelings with other people, that's when like you're taking that step forward, and that to like help you leave the toxic relationship.
I was gonna say, obviously, at times it's like very circumstantial, and like there's a lot of different levels of how toxic a relationship can get. Like if it gets abusive, then you'll probably want to get help from like some professional, or if it's just like, I don't know. I don't. There's too many traits of a toxic relationship that I can name off, but I find that the best way to get out of one is just by being as straight up as you possibly can with the person. Like how Paul was saying, just share your feelings, how you feel about like where the relationship is at, and if you're, because if you you're going to regret something that you don't say to them, because you're going to think like, man, what would have happened if I said that? And the worst that'll happen if you do say it is you'll have said it and you'll have a chance to move on from it, but everything is off of your heart at that point, and you'll feel a lot better after that, rather than holding it inside of you for the rest of, I don't even know how long, just a really long time. It's not the rest of your life. But yeah, I think that's the best way to move on, just in my opinion.
I'd say for me, I'd say whoever's the victim, quote unquote, I'd say just do whatever makes you happy. That's pretty much what I would say. Like even if he or she wants to stay, even though it is toxic, but if that's what makes them happy, then do that. And then if they have to leave to be happy, then they got to do that. Well, like, you may, regret it, or like you may be like, oh, maybe I should have done the other. But like honestly, you shouldn't really think too much about it, because if you feel like that, that decision, whatever you went to, was like the one that you're like content with, then you shouldn't, think back and stuff like that. But like if we're trying to get like, if like it really is a toxic relationship and you're trying to get out, then yeah, communicate your feelings, and what Paul and Andrew said, like just be straight up, don't be scared, because like you want to do what's best for you, like as a person, because you're you. So if it's getting out of the relationship, then you get out of there. Like don't think twice. If you think it's gonna better yourself, then just go. So I just say just do it. So
Yeah, and just adding on to that, I would just say, be straight up, but also just don't be afraid to be straight up. I think the most important thing is to be true to yourself, and to not let anybody else like kind of intimidate you into saying something that you don't really mean. And what I mean by that is I think some people feel a lot of peer pressure to maybe say one thing that'll please a lot of other people, but if it's not going to make you happy, even though you know that's the right thing to do, then it doesn't really matter what other people think at that point. It's really it comes down to like what you want for your future, and not being caught up in this sort of cycle of just being unhappy and not really going anywhere in life. Because I think that sort of like spiraling down mentality happens to a lot of people, and not necessarily in relationships. It can be in school, like you're not doing your homework because you're just unmotivated, so you just say screw it, I'm not going to do anything for like a while. It can be in family too, I guess. I don't really have as good of an example for that, but there's just different things that I think if you're not straight up and you're not really just staying true to like what you believe in, it can cause a lot of personal damage to your I think mental stability. So just be confident, and be proud when you speak, because otherwise it's not going to mean much, especially to yourself. And this is going to lead into my next question. Are you guys good at noticing when others are in a toxic relationship, and how would you be able to help that person? So I guess I'm going to go ahead and start, just because I already had it kind of like planned out of like what I was going to say. I think I'm honestly okay at like being able to see if like someone is happy or unhappy. Not necessarily like in a relationship, but like if I know the person and I can talk to them and then figure out that they are unhappy in a relationship, or like they got something going on with their friends, then I think I'm a pretty decent person to talk to about that kind of stuff. And it comes a lot from experience. It's a lot about just me kind of not necessarily trying to understand what they're going through, but more so just being there to listen. I think a lot of times, and this is mainly for guys, I feel like girls don't do this as often. Guys will always try to solve the problem, and it's really bad. Like if someone comes and tells you something that's going on with their life, like, oh, so and so is yeah, I don't know, just like not treating me well or something. You're just like saying a bunch of like mean stuff, rather than being like, okay, you're gonna do this and this and this, and this is gonna solve the problem. You're gonna find the solution to this. Rather than doing that, you want to just be there for them. You want to kind of like nurture them in a way, which is I think probably what girls do more than guys. So in terms of recognizing when someone's going through something, I would say I'm pretty good at it because I know that like what they're going through is probably something similar to what I might have been going through at some point in time. And even if I can't fully understand it, I'll be able to listen and try to support them as much as possible.
I'd say, I mean, I'm actually not that good at spotting, I guess, toxic relationships. I've only kind of dealt with one, but like I only dealt with it, well, quote unquote, dealt with it because like I was friends with both of the people, like partners, and like they would come to me, both of them, when they had problems with the other. So like, yeah, I wouldn't say I'm really that good at spotting, I guess, toxic relationships, but in terms of that, then yeah, because I was there and like I hung out with them and I see how they acted sometimes, and it's like, one of them was like one of my close friends, and if when he comes to me and like I guess rants about his partner, then I just be like, give my honest opinion. Like if he's wrong, then I just tell him straight up that he's wrong. Like I'd be like, okay, it's like I'm like, calm down. Like it's not that big of a deal. Like he was just she was just, or he or she just was just messing around. And it's like it's not something to fuss about or like get too worked up about, because like that's just gonna ruin your relationship. Like I told him that time, and like it was kind of like weird for me because like I've never been in a relationship, so like, and I always felt like inside of me, like if I was in a relationship, I wouldn't be that weird or like get worked up over nothing. But like it happens, because if you generally do like the person, like you kind of just want things to be, I guess, perfect, but not everyone is perfect. We all know that. But like so yeah, I'd say I'm not that good at spotting toxic relationships. But what I would do is I would just be just totally 100% straight up with them, no matter if it hurts or not, because that's probably what they want to hear or need to hear. So yeah.
I feel like in that particular situation, there's I feel like I'm not good at pointing out exactly where like the toxicity is, or if a person's inside of a toxic relationship or not. Because if I were to do that, I'd have to know both of the people in the relationship, how they both act, their different behaviors. Like I'm not gonna look at someone just because of their sign and like, oh, they're incompatible, it's not gonna work.
Psychoanalyze them.
I'm not gonna go full try to figure out what type of person they are just by how they look. Like I'm gonna get to know them from how they act to me, how they act to other people, and I'm gonna make my assumption off of that. Now when it comes to that, I'm good at that. Figuring out how a person is gonna treat someone else based on the way they treat me. And if they treat someone totally different, that's a red flag. If I think I think another thing is no one's gonna want to show their toxic side of themselves to the world. They're only gonna show it to someone they feel like they can manipulate with it.
That's true.
And when it comes to that, you're not gonna, if you just talk to someone, they're not gonna, the first thing they say isn't gonna be like, oh, I cheated on like 2 people in the past. Like they're gonna try to make themselves look good. And I know that's a thing because I do that. Like I try to, and I bet you guys do too. Like if you're meeting someone new, like you're not gonna tell them all the bad things about you. Like you're gonna let them get to know you for like the things that you're proud of, like maybe your music taste, maybe like certain achievements you've had in the past, and that's just like human behavior. So I feel like when it comes to observing a relationship that they have with someone else, you have to really look into who they are past the acts that they give to you or they do to you, and look at more what they do to the people around them. Not in like a weird way, but just like observe. So in that particular situation, yeah, I feel like I'm good at that.
So yeah, I do agree with what Andrew and Maggie said. Like, I mean, if it's just like someone I know and like I know how they act, then yeah, I can like spot it and like instantly like know if they're like not in a toxic relationship, but like if something is wrong. But like you have to know like both people if you want to like kind of like see if like a toxic relationship. And I don't know. I think the way like people like act around you, and if it's like let's say like you're friends with both of them, and they're both nice, okay, but they're both nice to you, but then like with each other, like there's always like some you want to get to know like both sides of the stories. That's what I'm trying to say. Like there's always like both like two sides to a story. And I think to like find a toxic trait, you need to like know both sides of the story. I don't know, but
That's another thing. Like, it's really easy just to lie about what someone's doing to you, or like, yeah, someone that happens a lot, where one person tries to portray themselves as a victim, or like making a victim complex for themselves and making it seem like they can't do anything wrong. Like, that's really common, and you just gotta pick. Well, not pick, but you have to like see where like each person stands on whatever side of the story it is. Like, you can't just hear one person and then believe it. Like, they could twist it. They could, that it's kind of like how like a judge jury system works. Like, the judge doesn't hear one side of the story and then based on the jury's whatever they say. I'm not a big court person, but I know that the jury like decides what the punishment is going to be. But like, you can't listen to one side and then decide like what the other person deserves. Like, you have to hear the other person. And yeah, I think that's another thing. Like, I think, Paul, that's kind of what you were trying to get at, right? Like,
yeah, pretty much.
like,
And I think that's also like, to be honest, I would say like trying to portray yourself as a good person in a relationship when there are problems is also a toxic trait, at least in my eyes. Because that leads to like if you're gonna tell people, oh yeah, like I do everything and like she doesn't do or he or she like doesn't do anything, like blah blah blah. I feel like that sort of like travels on and then people like build up assumptions and like that's how like things like travel. And I think we see a lot of that in high school, like high school relationships, like there are a lot of those like built in assumptions for like people portraying themselves
Oh
like
yeah.
being good, But yeah, so
Yeah, no, people are really good at making others look bad. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Like you said, it happens a lot in high school, unfortunately, and I think that's probably when it really started like getting bad. You talk, shit about someone like behind their back, and it's like maybe you're just caught up in the moment and like you don't really mean it, but like deep down, you do mean it. I don't know. Maybe it truly is like that one person is just bad and that the other's good. So I don't know. So this is the part of the video where we're gonna try not to name drop. All right. Everybody's gonna give an example that they've
that's
had in the past of themselves being in a toxic relationship. Okay. Don't go too in depth. Oh my! Everybody's expressions are so different. It's great. Let's have Miggy go last. Let's have Miggy go last. We have any volunteers? I'm
I mean,
still thinking mine, but
I'll go first.
actually, I do have one. This doesn't necessarily relate to me though. It's for something else that I watched happen.
that wasn't your question. You
What are
said
you
you asked
talking
if
about?
you've been in a toxic relationship. And
Okay, but technically I was in it and I got out of it, and then though there were other. Okay, well let me just explain what happened. There was this friend group, right? And it dated way back to middle school, so about 4 or 5 years ago. And the group was pretty, I guess, sort of tight, but there were sort of like clusters within the group that hung out with each other more and that maybe knew each other for longer or were just better friends in general. So when high school hit, people started branching out, and the more social people of the group started, going into other groups and meeting, newer people, aka me, because I float around a lot, which is honestly terrible sometimes because people get mad at me. But I will say that for the people that did stay in the group, there was some drama, and this drama happened not too long ago. I believe it was last summer. So um, I don't want to give too many details, but something had happened that kind of broke out this big discussion on Twitter. And because Twitter is notorious for, creating different sides, the group was split right down the middle. It was the guys and it was the girls because it was a co-ed friend group. So the girls were arguing their side and the guys were arguing theirs. Now, the girls, and this is not like to bash on girls at all or anything, but the girls were very, I guess, aggressive in how they were coming across, which the guys respected, of course, because, obviously, you want to be, if you're going to be in an argument, you want the other side to have a legitimate reason to argue. You don't want to get into a stupid battle if there's no game. But the guys were sort of on the more sympathetic side, saying, they understand, and that it's sort of like they didn't really argue. They more just said things that kind of provoked the girls into arguing against them. So I would say, and it could have gone either way. It could have been the girls saying that and the guys being aggressive. It's just the way it turned out. So being that I knew I knew the guys better. Being that I knew the guys better, I kind of went to them and sort of asked them what was going on. And they explained to me the whole situation that I just told. And so what ended up happening is that the group completely split up, because the girls got mad at all of them. The girls blocked them all on social media. They blocked them all on just, I think, their contact lists or something, unfollowed them, whatever. It was a shit show. It was really, really bad. And I felt bad for the people that were affected because, they were affected by it. They didn't expect a group that had been together for so long to split just because of one argument. And I think that if, in this case it was the girls, if the girls had cared enough about the relationship that they were in, they would have tried harder to make amends. The guys apologized multiple times to the girls, and I felt bad for them because I was kind of there, helping. I was like, oh, you should type this sentence and delete this sentence and whatever. They were writing. When you write an apology in your notes that you mean it, because you're not gonna type something and then accidentally click the send button without it, turning into a whole fiasco. But that's my example. And they're still not friends to this day. I wasn't really taking sides, but I'm friends with the guys more, and I didn't really know the girls as well. So I'm friends with the guys today, not with the girls.
I've never been in one.
I've
never, at all.
Wow.
I've actually never been in one. But I mean, I've seen a lot, and one of the ones I've seen is just the guy taking advantage of the girl, and it was just one-sided relationship. So the guy just has his needs, and he's just going to the girl for just because for his needs to satisfy his needs. And so things lead to other things, and then they're just both screaming at each other, and they're just having not misunderstandings, but they're just not on board with each other anymore, and that just leads to physical abuse and so forth. So I mean, that was quite interesting. It's just one of those things wow, I don't ever want to be in that, but I do feel bad seeing that. I mean, there's nothing I can do except provide comfort. So I mean, I don't know, but it was just one of those things that's wow.
And when Will asked the question, I almost wanted to lie to myself and tell myself that I, along with Paul, had never been in a toxic relationship before.
I still feel like Paul's lying.
And
but I'm not lying.
I don't know if you could really define a normal toxic relationship because there's just so many out there with so many different circumstances. But I feel like my case is a bit unusual. And the way I interpreted it was coming off of my first answer of my answer of, I think Will asked, what is my most toxic trait? It's wanting the approval of a certain person or group and trying to gain their approval, I damage another relationship because I'm trying to gain that approval. So in this that I put two and two together. I'm like, oh, okay, this kind of makes sense in this relationship. So I'm not gonna say what time period this was because that's a big hint or whatever. But I I was talking to this girl, right? And I'm not gonna go into detail about that, but I felt happy with her, and she was good to me. I was good to her. There there came a point where I was like starting to tell a lot of people about her, and it was like how happy I was with her, right? And it was going well for a while. And I had eventually come across this friend group that I was really, really, really close with. I was scared of telling them because I knew that they would say something that I wouldn't like, right? But I still held their opinion like really, really highly to myself. So when the time came, I didn't want to lie to their face because I'm not like that type of person. I mean, I've lied before, but I I feel like when I told them, I was scared, and obviously, like from the get go, I was scared of what they'd think, and I felt like I wanted their approval, but I knew I wasn't gonna get it, even if I told them. And I keep in mind, this group of friends I've known since like right after I was born. Like I've known them for a very long time, and I told them, and they told me that like, oh, this relationship isn't any good for you. Like it's just gonna lead into you getting heartbroken or you breaking her heart. And I think they just told me like all the reasons why I should stop. And I thought about it, and I made a really impulsive decision to just cut ties. And I feel like at that time that's probably the most like toxic thing I've ever done. And but I will say I don't regret it because I learned a lot from myself from that experience, and I was able to change off of that. But I I'm not happy with the way that I acted and how easily I was influenced by someone else's opinion to act on something that I held so close to me. And I think that I still think that I have work to do in terms of that particular problem, that the toxic trait of wanting people's approval and damaging other people's relationships off of that. But I think that that particular instance, that toxic relationship is that's the one I feel like I grew the most off of.
All right, everybody, big deep breath for Miggy's story.
what? What? It's not even that. It's not even gonna be that. I'm not gonna explain too much. Yeah. Okay. Well,
I sound horrible.
my toxic relationship. I mean, you could look at it as like toxic. I guess I would say it's a stepping stone. Not a stepping stone. I mean, a learning experience. A learning experience. But so yeah. I I like this girl. There's this girl. I liked her a lot, and you know, I did. For me, when I really do like someone, I'll do whatever I can in my power, in my ability to make them like me back. And um, you know, I was doing everything I could to make this girl like me, because she definitely knew that I liked her. And there were like points in times where, and like she knew that she that I liked her, and she was like talking to me. And there were some point in times where I genuinely thought that this person was only talking to me because they wanted just the stuff that I give, like the things that I put down on the table. She just wanted that and just left. Like she just took it and ran. Like she didn't want to give it back, or she didn't want to give the same thing back. Like she just wanted it whenever she needed it. And me, I just gave it to her. Like whenever they needed it, you know, they got it. And it was like just like and what's I guess what kind of hurt was my friends giving me advice, telling me like dude, you should stop, or like um you know this is not healthy. And like
My
I like oh it's okay. Oh, one part of me was like yeah, like what, like what are you doing, man? Like and then the other part of me is like I see this person so differently than any other else. Like I genuinely want everything to do with them, and so and like I was always just torn like between whether or not I should be like done or just be friends, or like keep going and see how it lasts. And like so and like for it was a good while where I was just like giving her whatever she wanted whenever she needed it, without her giving anything back. And I like at one point I was just like, okay, I can't do this anymore. So I distanced myself. I kind of stopped talking to her like daily. So and then I was able to move on. And we were still good friends, stuff like that. And like what I guess what made this um a toxic relationship is because it's just the reoccurring problem of me giving too much and not getting anything in return, because there were many instances where that happened. But I guess the cherry on top, long story short, I was moving on, I guess, like into to someone else, moving on to someone else, and this person that I liked for a pretty long time was like holding me back, I guess you can say. They were like restricting me from moving on from them, because they feel like they're gonna lose all the things that I was giving them. And like I'm not trying to say specifics or details or anything, but yeah, long story short, they were trying to restrict me of trying to move on as a person and in relationships. And another thing is like I guess something that I should probably work on is that I was still, no matter how you know toxic I guess that person was, I still always saw the person that I guess I fell for, I liked. So yeah, that's my toxic relationship. You know, but it's all good now. It's all learning experience. It's life. I'm young. I'm 17. Ladies, hit me up. Um, so yeah, it's just good lessons, man. I honestly, if they do watch this, I hope we can talk again. Not like that, but like I guess talk as like like civilized people. So yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful story. Every
Said
time I hear
yeah.
that story, it brings tears to my eyes. We're gonna bring it home with some advice, and this is just gonna be kind of general. What's your guys' advice for people that are stuck or trapped or just in a toxic relationship? Now, this can obviously apply to friends, family, romantic relationships, anything that you guys want to talk about. I'll go ahead and start. So, if you are a person that is in a toxic relationship, I would just say you have to first figure out what values of a healthy relationship you cherish the most. So this can be anything from like communication, trust, honesty, loyalty. I know I'm forgetting a ton. I guess, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot though. It just those are some examples. You have to figure out which ones of those, I guess, that you sort of value the most, and you have to think to yourself and say to yourself, am I getting this right now with this person? Because you can only really build a relationship with somebody if you have all the aspects of what a healthy relationship is, I feel like, or at least most of them. So if you're not getting what you think that you should, and you might be giving it to them, but they're not reciprocating it back, I would just say that's the time to try to talk to them. If they're not really the kind of person to open up, I would go to other people for advice, other people that have either gone through maybe a similar thing that you're going through, or just really close friends that are going to have your back no matter what. So, and then once you get past that point and let's say that the person that you're dealing with in this scenario, the toxic person, is still not kind of like letting their guard down and still not kind of listening to what you have to say. I would just say, if they're your really good friend, and normally I don't think this would happen with really good friends, but if they are a really good friend or a love interest, I would say you have to take time for yourself and you have to be more distant, but you can still like be their friend. I've had best friends in the past, or like I guess best friends, but like really good friends in the past that like I'll talk to them for like a week straight, and like we'll FaceTime every single day, we'll text every single day, and hang out or whatever. Um, there comes a point in time where I feel like everybody just has to take time for themselves and really just sort of maybe talk to other people that you haven't talked to for a while instead of that one person. And I'm getting better at doing it. I'm not necessarily getting better at like telling them why. Like I'll think of excuses as like to why I can't FaceTime. Like, oh, I'm taking a shower, or I have to eat, or I'm on a call with another person. But like sometimes those are genuine excuses though, and it's not like I'll say it and lie. But you have to be able to take time for yourself and really not just be tied down to one person all the time, which I guess sort of is a tease to Miggy's story. But yeah, that's my advice for the people out there that are in toxic relationships.
All right, so I'd say for me, like, and this is advice that I live by too. Like, I'd say, like, really just look at yourself and know your self-worth, know what you bring to the table, and like learn to like be proud of what you bring and like what you do as a person, especially if you're not in the wrong. Like if you're just like like you're not the toxic one, or you're not the one that's the problem, then you should know your worth. Because I know a lot of people that are in toxic relationship and they look like that, and like they're not even the ones doing the wrong, but they think that they're the problem. And they should know that their self-worth and what they bring. And also, like, if stuff happen, like if you're in a toxic relationship and like something bad happens and like they leave, or like you have to leave, or like something like that, just know that shit happens. Like it's life. Like you should like be able to take that as a learning, like I said, a learning experience. Like it's what you do afterwards that really defines your character as a person. Like you know like yeah, basically it defines yourself as a person. And another advice is do what's best for you, always, always. And that's pretty much all my advice I can give.
If I were to give a piece of advice, specifically for people in toxic relationships, I think oops. I believe that something most people in toxic relationships don't really have is patience, and it goes a long way. Like I I know this is a really specific situation, but like if someone were to ask you, like, what are some of the things that you value the most in a relationship? Obviously, the first ones that'll probably come to most people's heads are like loyalty, honesty. I don't know what comes after that, but I think patience is really underrated, and it can go a long way. Like, I'm assuming a lot of the people watching this are young. Like, it's not like there's gonna be a bunch of 30-year-olds or teachers at CV watching Will's podcast, but I think for the audience, like regardless of whether you're in a toxic relationship or not, like I don't want to sound cliche, but you literally have your whole life ahead of you. Like there's no need to make like an impulsive decision because you feel like it's the right thing to do. Like take a look at what you're dealing with, make sure that you believe it's the right thing to do, as Miggy said, like make sure it'll make you happy and execute it. Like if you think you did the right thing, then you did the right thing. If you look at it and you have second thoughts about it, then you could learn off of it. Like I think patience goes a long way, especially in toxic relationships, because I know not most people are. I don't know most people actually, but there's some people who don't want to give someone a second chance because they feel like they'll just go back to the way that they acted before. And that's understandable. Like if someone wrongs you, obviously you're not going to be like, oh, it's okay. Like you're going to feel like, why am I letting them do this to me? Right? Like I'm assuming most of us here have been wronged in some kind of way. And obviously we don't feel the best about it afterwards. So I think when it comes to having patience in that type of situation, it's hard because sometimes having patience can lead you to getting hurt, but that's just a part of life. Like you can't live a life without feeling pain. Like that kind of sound like pain right now. But you can't expect to go about your life and not live with pain. And I think that is more important than I think having that experience is more important than making a decision, making a really impulsive decision because you feel like it won't hurt you. Yeah, you could take that advice however you want. It was kind of broad because I think it's supposed to be, but yeah, that's my piece of advice.
So I mean, at the end of the day, you have to stay true to yourself. Um, like look at what you value. What do you value as a person? What do you stand for? Like if you're not getting that out of your toxic relationship, then there's no reason for you to stay there unless you're having those values are met. Again, it's not supposed to be like a one-sided thing, but again, it is about yourself at the end of the day. It's about you. I mean, learn from your past, like learn from the relationship and carry those things on. And if it comes to the point where someone does want to start a second chance, it's like, do they meet my standards? Do they meet, like, not standards, but like, do they meet my values? Like, do they add on to that? Like, what can I learn from them, and what can they learn from me? So I mean, that's what I would say. And again, you have to share your feelings. Like, you can't just like stay in this like tiny bubble and not let like your emotions out. Like, we are all humans. We all have emotions, and it's like normal for us to like express ourselves, and that's okay too. I feel like a lot of people are just like they. I feel like we have this like not social, like kind of social standards, so like we shouldn't express our feelings, or like it's like weakness, especially for men or guys in general. It's like not supposed to be like a good thing, but I feel like expressing your feelings does go a long way. Um, in terms of like toxic relationships, and that'll be all.
I always like bringing it home with some advice as the last sort of question or statement. We got to start writing some of our quotes down. I feel like we get really into these sometime. There's just like some really like intellectual things that are said. But like I was saying, I like to end on advice, because I feel like this whole sort of like experience for us is almost like a journey. It's, you start with like some questions that are good, bad, in the middle, whatever. You go on this whole ride, and then you obviously want to finish on like the best note possible. So, so yeah, that's all the time that we got for this one. Thank you guys very much. I hope that, this touches a lot of people, because this is probably one of the ones where people can actually like maybe use in their like emotional state of mind when they're ever feeling down. And, maybe we four can come back to this and, use it whenever we're feeling down as well. I don't know. I feel like there's so many traits that we probably looked at that are all bad, but yeah, I don't know. We all have them, even if you want to admit it or not. That's our video. It's taken a bit, but yep.
All right, can we drop names now?
Yeah, you want to drop names now?
You already know mine.